Hey everyone, welcome to Black Students Add to It. I'm Lauren, a junior advertising major, sports administration minor from Los Angeles, California.
And I'm LaWayne Richardson, sophomore advertising major from the Caribbean Anguilla.
Today we're going to talk about advertising that matters. So often we see ads that influence and persuade people to spend money, but there are also ads that raise awareness of serious issues and encourage people to change societal problems.
Brands are focused on corporate social responsibilities now more than ever. There's also agencies that are dedicated to creating public service announcements.
The talented people at Goodbye Silverstein and Partners sat down with Howard University's senior advertising student, and forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Surmaya Graham, to discuss their award-winning Lil Nas X Super Bowl commercial.
During this panel, Stephanie Phillips, the group strategy director at GSMP, explains one of her favorite projects she worked on was a campaign to stop people from downloading and sharing child pornography. Here's a clip on her explaining the campaign.
But I think the work that I'm proudest of is some work that I did at GSP a few years ago, which was to stop people sharing child pornography. And much of it isn't very available in the public domain, so maybe I'll just talk about it a little bit because so much of it had to kind of be covert for it to work. But essentially, an enormous amount of child pornography is shared over the internet every single day. Millions of downloads, far too much for the police to ever be able to go and do inventory on, or forensics, or track every person down. And so the police have to focus on new cases of abuse. They have to make sure that, is this a new photograph that's just made it onto the internet, because that means that's happening to that child right now, and they have to prioritize that as a crime. Whereas there's plenty of old photographs that are just in circulation all the time. And just like any other type of behavior, you kind of learn how to be a successful online predator, and you start as a beginner. And a big part of the work that we were doing was using technology and messaging to intercept people in the early days of them developing that behavior. And I know this is kind of a grim topic, so I won't go into too many details, but essentially all of the tactics that you see, say you've looked up a pair of shoes on Nordstrom and then you're somewhere else on the internet 3 days later and bam, those shoes are there. We used a lot of those same tactics to basically say, the internet isn't anonymous, but help is. And that was a really big part of the strategy for me, was not to drive the behavior deeper underground, but to say that even this, if you can speak to someone in time, you'll not abuse someone in real life. The journey from you watching stuff to you acting on it is quite a long one. And I think that the reason why I'm so proud is because we got all of these tech companies who are rarely in the same room together, Facebook, Google, to sit around and essentially develop a tool that meant that if a photo was uploaded that was identified as child pornography, they could code it in a way that meant that everybody could search for that photo no matter how it had been edited. So it didn't matter whether it had been shrunk, turned into black and white, spliced into the middle of a YouTube video. And that piece of technology is alive today and is a big part of how they fight child pornography. So I think it's all these things coming together of what are the tools that we use in advertising to affect behavior, combined with messaging, combined with actually diverting people towards help. And I think even as we did that campaign, I didn't actually expect that people kind of mid-masturbation, sorry to be so crude on this call, but would seek help. And they got thousands of calls to the help center. So to this day, I think the legacy of that, is the one I'm most proud of.
As you can tell from that clip, advertising is much deeper than getting people to just spend money. It can help people get the counseling they need. It can protect children. And most of all, advertising can just be very life-changing.
It's amazing to see that those advertising efforts worked, and people did reach out to get help. It's interesting to know that the ads wasn't necessarily to shame or convict, but instead to catch people in the early stages from committing these crimes. I'm glad to see that people did try to get help. They needed to be full. Innocent children were hurt and exposed.
Advertising can really change lives. Sex trafficking is such a big issue worldwide. In Vegas, the FBI has used digital billboards to help rescue victims. Throughout the strip, there's billboards with sex trafficking hotline numbers. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and show you guys a short news clip from Fox News detailing how advertising has helped sex trafficking victims.
Digital billboards are popping up around the Las Vegas area, bringing awareness to the alarming issue of human trafficking. The ads feature a child with a hand covering her face, saying, "We'll listen, we'll help," in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Chinese. A tip hotline is provided for witnesses and victims. The Las Vegas FBI office joined with a commercial sign company to help spread the message.
Billboard campaigns on various criminal enterprises throughout the country have been wildly successful. The FBI has noted at least 50 arrests directly related to those type of efforts.
Las Vegas police reported 107 cases of child sex trafficking last year, and since 2014, the number of statewide cases has steadily increased. The FBI hopes the billboards will lead to a reduction in human trafficking cases in the months ahead. In Las Vegas, Andrew Kraft, Fox News.
Like the journalist mentioned, there's an increase of child trafficking in Vegas. Overall, it seems like children are the victims in many of these crimes. I'm glad to see that advertisers are doing what they can do to stop these crimes from happening and trying to rescue these victims. It is amazing to see that advertising have that effect.
Let's talk about another pressing issue, domestic violence. There was a NoMore.org commercial that ran during the 2015 Super Bowl. It really shows the scary situations that victims are put in and what it can sound like when someone is asking for help without asking outright. Let's listen to this commercial real quick.
911, operator 901. Where's the emergency?
127 Brynmere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency
Do you
line.
know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
PSA likes that are so important. There's so many women and some men who are in these situations.
If you're going through this situation, you need to know that there are ways people can help, like the commercial explained. You don't have to say that you're being abused, because there's other ways to allow someone to know that you're going through an abusive situation or that you were in an abusive relationship. Everyone knows the signs of abuse or what to cry for help. But hopefully with these kind of PSAs, people will be more aware and quick to help. Leaving an abuser is the most dangerous time in a relationship. People have to be very vigilant and have to be able to see the signs when someone is asking for their help.
It is good to know that advertisers are creating these ads to help people in these difficult situations. Advertisers like ad councils is so crucial to get these messages out like these.
Yes, the Ad Council is a great example of an agency that does social good. As you mentioned at the beginning, brands are being more socially responsible. Some have to be, while others are just kind of choosing to make bold statements to their audience.
Budweiser really speaks on that, since they're in a business where people can easily put themselves and others at risk.
There's Someone Waits for You at Home commercial with the golden retriever really gets your attention. It shows a guy when he first gets his puppy until the dog is grown. He goes out with his friends with a case of Budweiser and he gets into a new car. The dog is waiting at the window and it's getting late. It's now a new day and the guy isn't back. Eventually he comes to the door and he apologizes to his dog. He slept at a friend's house because he didn't want to drink and drive. There's a message on the screen that says, "For the some, the waiting never ends."
That commercial had an amazing message. Budweiser had the responsibility to all their consumers to encourage them to be safe and drink responsibly. There are also other brands who are sending strong messages to all their consumers. The NBA and the ESPN commercial of Black Lives Matter show companies for being more vocal and taking on more corporate social responsibility.
This was never just a game.
This was speaking out for decades, and the sad reality is people have to change their view of us.
And it's shown us that humanity is greater than anything else that divides us.
We're actually living and breathing human beings that have a multitude of intelligence, work ethic, discipline, talent.
We stand on the shoulders of men and women who fought for our right to participate, for our right to run without fear, for our right to not only breathe, but thrive.
I want to see that same uproar. I want to see that same, this is not our country. This is not what we want to represent, but we can't be the only voices doing it.
We have a right to make it known, loud and clear.
My patience left my body when I watched George Floyd take his last breath.
Our lives matter.
In these times, it's important to see a brand send such a strong message directly to its customers.
It's amazing that there's so many things you can do in advertising. Yes, it's fun to be a part of the biggest ad campaigns with celebrities and big brands, but it's just as important to be a part of campaigns that are focused on making our world a better place. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Black Students Add to It, and we hope to see you next episode. Thank you for tuning in.